All right. Hello, everybody. I apologize for the delay. One of our guests has been disposed. Good morning. I am Miri Rizito. Welcome to AI Navigating the Flames of Change panel. I am the CEO of Cal Communications, your Track 3 sponsor, and I'd love for us to recognize Google, one of my favorite companies, for being our panel sponsor. Round of applause for them. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to our panel. The biographies of each of these incredibly brilliant panelists are located in your journal, so I'm going to make this brief so that we have time for questions. I'm going to just go down the line. We have Jordan Orlick, Chief Executive Officer of Let's Chat, Inc. We have Jason Ernst, Professor of Computational Medicine and Biological Chemistry at UCLA. Wow. And then we have Saurabh Mishra, Field CTO, Data and AI of Oracle Cloud. So let's say thank you. AI, artificial intelligence, has emerged as a powerful force in today's ever-changing world, driving innovation and transforming industries and operations. Businesses now recognize AI's potential for remaining competitive and adaptable in our ever-changing work environment. From ChatGPT to AI imaging, music composition, and a plethora of other writing options, AI has permeated every aspect of our lives. I'm going to give each of the panelists a moment to introduce themselves to get things started, but I'd like to ask them as they introduce themselves if they could give an explain like I'm five little talk track on AI as it pertains to their industry. Jordan, let's start with you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jordan Orlick. I'm the CEO of Let's Chat, and we do real-time language translation services and innovations. And AI is just a really, really fancy term for artificial intelligence. If you guys ever saw the movie Iron Man, you're familiar with Jarvis, which is his AI, and kind of think of AI in that regard. It's there to help you benefit your life, make work more productive, easier, and more successful in what you do. And we utilize AI quite often with Let's Chat, everything from our language libraries, our language models, everything to understanding what our clients' needs, how to improve our translations for them, and understand their habits to make sure we can always provide the best experience for our customers. So thank you.
Thank you. You sound like an AI. I love that.
I tried.
That was on point.
I've used it a lot, so I can sound like one now.
Perfect cadence. Saurabh, please.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this panel. This is Saurabh Mishra. I'm a field CTO with Oracle Cloud, and with what I said just now, the field is my day-to-day, right? So I talk to all different verticals and different sectors. And AI, I consider myself as being AI, right? Because AI cut horizontal. AI is not a product for healthcare. AI is not a product for ISVs, right? AI is not a product for financial company. AI is a technology which cuts across, and it has its own implementation devices which we use at Oracle Cloud and provide services for it, which can be used in each sector to do automate, to do recommend, to do predict, to do anomaly, to do forecasting, to do read the document for you and find out what's issues in it. And all of those can be applied to any industry. So, I'll just give you that about AI.
Thank you so much. Jason, go ahead.
Thank you. So I'm Jason Ernst. So my background, I don't think my biography made the booklet in time. So I did my undergraduate work at the University of Maryland in computer science and mathematics, and then I did a PhD at Carnegie Mellon in what's now the machine learning department. So it's one of the early graduates of that department, and then moved on to MIT in the computer science and AI lab. And during this, both my PhD and postdoctoral training, I worked in computational biology. And then I moved out here to UCLA in 2012, and I was hired in a biological chemistry department, even though my whole background was through computer science, where there was sort of the recognition that the way biology was moving was driven by large data sets, ability to experimentally collect lots of data in parallel, and that was sort of requiring new techniques from computer science and statistics and machine learning and AI. So they needed people with that type of background actually in embedded with working closely with biologists. And was mentioned, also I'm now a professor in computational medicine. UCLA recently established a department in computational medicine within the medical school, recognizing the opportunities sort of more broadly within the medical school for all the data, both genomics but other types of clinical data being collected, and the opportunities to bring in a lot of computer science and other areas of computational work to make an impact in medicine. And my specific focus area of research is sort of better understanding the human genome using lots of different types of data sources.
Wow, thank you so much. And I'd like to introduce our last panelist, Ali Sanjari from Google.
Yes, hi, Ali Sanjani with Google. I'm the director for artificial intelligence and machine learning. I lead the AIML Center of Excellence at Google Cloud, and that's my day job. My other job is I'm a professor at UC San Diego and San Jose State, where I teach advanced machine learning in their master's in data science program. And very happy to be here today with all of you. Bright, shining faces.
Indeed. Ali, I had a quick question, and I had asked the other panelists, how would you describe AI in an explain like I'm 5 form? What's your talk track?
Are you asking a language model, or are you asking me?
Asking you.
Okay. So as Bard, I would respond in the following way. You can go to bard.google.com and ask the same question. You'll probably get completely different answers. In terms of what the revolution in artificial intelligence is, it's been made more accessible. We've had, as Google, we've had pioneering work in machine learning for decades, literally. We just essentially celebrated our 25th anniversary. And we've started the revolution back in 2013, where we created the notion of word embedding. So if you want to, computers are very good at numbers, but when you give them text, they don't know what to do. So you have to convert the text to numbers. In order to do that, we revolutionized the notion of word embeddings. So you create a representation of words and text and documents into numbers. That was step one. We created specialized hardware to process these very intricate computations that need to occur. They were called tensor processing units, or TPUs, and tensors because they're large tables of numbers, basically. And then back in 2017, 2018, we introduced a new architecture called the transformer architecture. This originated in human translation, you know, like French to English, German to Chinese, etc. So one language into another. Very soon we found out that we can actually start generating things out of that. We can start teaching the model to fill in the next word in the sentence. And by training it on a very large corpus of data, think of it as kind of the entire public internet, we were able to essentially say, okay, the next word in the sentence, fill in the blank for me. And it would look everything, and to be or not to, everybody's mind says the highest likely word is what? Be. Thank you. You all know Shakespeare. That's very good. But if you were trained on not Shakespeare, but Dr. Seuss, you might say something else, you know. Thing one, thing two, the cat, cat in the hat, something like that, right? So depending on what the training is, you will get the most likely probability of the next word in the sentence. So this is how these large language models, as they call them, produce generative AI. They generate the next word in the sentence by filling in a blank, and they give the impression that you're actually having a conversation with them, which is not quite untrue, but it gives that fake impression. Much as moving pictures, movies, are frame-by-frame animations. So the real revolution occurred when we tried to align these conversational agents with human judgment. So initially, these conversational agents would be giving wild answers. We had a whole bunch of people train them, called reinforcement learning. It's like training your dog. Good dog, bad dog. You know, if it does something good, give it a treat. If it doesn't do something, don't do that. So in that same way, thumbs up, thumbs down, we started aligning the output of these models with human values, human directions, what we would expect a conversational agent to indicate to us. So that evolution occurred so that now people are used to having an interface with these conversational agents. Now, the problem with these conversational agents is that if you didn't train them, if they don't have any correct information, what's going to happen is they're going to lie. Basically, not intentionally, but they're going to make stuff up. So if they didn't know what that next word in the sentence was, let's say you didn't know anything about Shakespeare, therefore the next 10 number of words would be equally likely, so it would flip a coin. That's when it hallucinates, so to speak. It just makes stuff up. So in order for us to avoid that hallucination or decrease the probability of that hallucination, we need to do several things to put in guardrails in order to make that happen. But anyway, I'll pause there.
No, thank you. I'm now the smartest 5-year-old ever. Saurabh, I'd like to ask you, in the context of business and industry, essential AI components may include robust infrastructure, machine learning, and language capabilities. What are some of the components or technology within AI that you consider to be the most essential within your industry and field?
Yeah. So just to start with laying the foundation, right? What Ali mentioned was very key, that data is the key, right? You start with having a good data, right? You start with having a data which is parsed, cleansed, is kind of processable for this AI model to learn on, right? If the data is not good, what will originate out of it would be hallucinations, right? So it will be resulting into saying things which it does not even learn on, right? So you start with data, which is the foundation layer. You start with the infrastructure, TPUs, GPUs, so that they create the base layer for processing that data. And then on top, you have machine learning services or data science services, which are typical, like this notebook, right? I'm a data scientist, so I start writing things which I want to parse. I want to see the data, how it looks, and start creating graphs of it. That's the typical day-to-day of a data scientist, right? So that's another component. Once the data scientist has learned that, okay, this is the amount of data, this is the model which I want to use to train the data on, the next step is to put that model into action, right? So language, vision, NLP, natural language processing, facial recognition, robotics, all of those becomes the next layer where you start processing that data, which you are actually inferencing that data, right? Like which you are actually seeing in day-to-day. The next level was generative AI, where AGI came into picture, and AGI is not just a gross income, it's artificial generation, right? Which is basically the next concept of AI. What you're gonna look at that, it's gonna have the large language models getting trained on and giving the output of what you chat to, right? So we're all aware of ChatGPT here, I assume. The ChatGPT was a large language model which basically started giving you a response or answers, which becomes the next component of it. So if you look at the entire thing, what I said, data, the infrastructure which can act on that petabytes or multiple gigabytes of data which is coming at a stream, and then the machine learning platform on top. On top of that, final output would be this LLM, which will revolutionize the next 10 years we're going to work on. So those are the key components I've seen, and this can be applied in any industry, right? So any industry which uses all of these components would be able to use AI effectively.
Yeah. That's great. Just out of curiosity, by a show of hands, how many of you use Bard? How many of you have used Bard? And how many of you have used ChatGPT? How many of you use ChatGPT every day? Interesting. Okay.
Did you know that your information is then sent out and it's not private? Did you know that that's the case? Great. Continue using it.
Well, that got dark quick, didn't it? Why don't you lean into that a little bit, Ali? What do you? No,
I'm just half kidding, because all these conversational agents are great. They're like our pets. They keep us happy, and sometimes they help us, like a service dog, and sometimes they augment us, like an exoskeleton. We can run faster with them. So they can help us, but beyond the gimmicks, right? It's cool to generate something and get a recipe or plan a day or get some essay written. But have you ever actually tried to do poetry with any one of these? Try it next time. Their level is at a level of a 5th or 6th grade poetry. So if you want to do serious poetry, none of these systems, don't tell anyone. Don't tell Bard, don't tell ChatGPT, don't tell any of these guys. But they're really bad at it. So, but we can help them. That's called prompt engineering. So if you can engineer the prompt, if you can structure the question you're asking it in such a way, you're assuming the role of Socrates, leading through questioning. So the Socratic method, you're asking it something, but you're telling it something as well. You're giving it some examples, called in-context learning, or few-shot example. You're giving a few samples of what you want. You're telling it how you want the structure to be fed back to you. It'll do better. But then the next phase is, if you're, okay, these models typically are trained like ChatGPT or the GPT models before them are trained, I believe the last time was around 2020 or 2021?
2021.
End of 2021. Bard is current, so that's why I go to Bard, honestly, because it's current. It knows what's happening now. But let's say a model was trained before, 2 years ago, or 1 year ago, or 2 months ago, and you're in Los Angeles today, and you want to plan a bike trip, and you're asking it, hey, plan a bike trip for me. It says, where are you? What's the weather like? If it's raining, I don't want to plan a bike trip. Do you want to go uphill, or do you want to just go, down the road? So you need to augment the information sent to these models. So the technical term for this is retrieval augmented generation. And there's a new verb out there. Just rag it, R-A-G, rag. Okay? So one thing I want you to remember from today is when you walk out the door, you're just going to have in your mind, just rag it. Yeah. And ragging it is basically giving the model enough information to be relevant to construct something that is less hallucinatory, that is imbued with enough information that it can formulate a sensible, more correct response. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 is you probably, if you're in a specific industry domain, you will need to tune your models. So let's say the model is at the high school level, you need to give it a bachelor's degree. You need to train it so it understands a certain type of thing. And let's say your healthcare, life sciences, financial services, government, whatever, military science, etc. Whatever, you need to tune these models so it can speak your language, understand those concepts, the relationships between that knowledge. So that's the third element. By combining these patterns together, and then the last thing, so for example, with Google, we provide the retrieval augmentation, the tuning, the grounding. If you ask it something and it gives you an answer, you don't really know if that's true or not. You have to investigate. You can ask the Google services to give you grounding, what we call factual grounding. It goes back and says, you know what, here are 2 URLs. Click on it. This is where we got the information from. So it's super important to have the combination of these elements when you're actually actively working with these systems. Not on the weekends when you have your tank tops on and you're just having fun, but during the week when you have your suit on and you're doing serious business, whether in the public or private sector, your data needs to be safe, and you need to be doing something that is grounded, retrieves, tuned, and with correct prompt engineering. That combination of elements is super important to have.
And just to add to this, right, so there are ChatGPT and the new model from Google. All of this are working on every data available around the world, right? Now, this is trained model, and it comes out with a version of that. What you can do with Oracle Cloud and other cloud as well is you can take that model and let it train on the data you do on a day-to-day, which is private to you, right? So you basically take the model, put that into your enterprise, and let's say in a solar firm, I was talking to her about, she was doing documentation scanning while she was sitting in the session. So what I was saying is that you take the model, train that on your data, which is private to you and to your enterprises, and then extract and let it chat to your customers without you telling them anything. So what it does is like you ask that model, can you find the document about me 10 years before? So it's going to retrieve that document for you and provide you that document which you are asking. And it's private to you. It's inside your enterprise. It's inside your tenancy. We call it in cloud tenancy. So, it's inside your compartment where you're sitting, and it's never exposed to external public. And that's when the actual implementation of the ChatGPT models, of the Google models, and all these models which are coming around, language models, becomes real to enterprises, right? That you start using this for your day-to-day, Monday to Friday work, right? And that's where it can help you better in doing what you're doing. Yeah.
Absolutely. Duncan, you and I were speaking before about privacy, and I know that that's something that you had thoughts on, and I wondered if you wanted to share kind of your thoughts on privacy and the future of AI technology and how they align.
That's me, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know Duncan was the other. Yeah.
What oh my God! I'm so sorry, Jason.
I can be
Only
Duncan
kidding.
for the day also.
I know.
It's no
Could
problem.
you please? That would be great.
All right, I'm Duncan today.
Yes, you are.
So,
take it away.
Thank you. Security and privacy.
Yes.
Yep. So security and privacy. So what we mentioned today so far is really in-depth conversation about generative AI and everything like that. And most people in here probably have not a lot of clue how to make that happen from a personal level. So I'm going to talk more of a higher level from a business standpoint, privacy, security, stuff like that. Not programming the models yourselves, but just using the models exactly how they are, like with ChatGPT or anything like that. When it comes to privacy and security, of course, that's paramount for everyone in here. Any private documents, any security, any personal PII information you may have, you probably don't want to put that into ChatGPT, for example. Like, hey, can you retrieve my social security number? It may not be able to do that for you. Maybe it will, but it'll probably be wrong unless your number has been exposed on the internet. So hopefully it hasn't. But yeah, so just be very careful what you put in there. If you need it to help you generate an email, no problem. There's probably nothing private in an email, right? You can go into ChatGPT or Bard and say, hey, can you draft an email for me? No problem. It'll do it for you in 4 seconds, and you're going to look like a champion. But when it comes to, like I said, privacy and security, just be smart with it, but it'll help you with everything that you need. And at a very high level, it'll be your best friend probably going forward with any aspect of your business.
And as I indicated, right, like there is ethics and bias into it as well. Just to add to the privacy, right, like we don't have, like for COVID vaccine, when COVID came around, we have a FDA body which approved the vaccine and then everybody took it. We don't have a body of governance today which can allow these models to be governed, right? What they are doing with their data, how are the ethics, and they're not making biased decisions, how the ethical AI concepts are getting applied. And this is a question I asked Roblox CEO, right? So how many of your kids plays Roblox a day, right? So probably they play more than what you chat to them, right? Right? So how are you using kids' data, right? And when his response, that's a big discussion happening in the world right now, right? Like there's nothing concrete about it. There's no the governance body which is saying that this model cannot do this and it can be to this extent. It cannot replace jobs and it cannot put everybody on universal basic income. So right? Like nobody's saying that. Right. Everybody's saying universal basic income is needed for the next century or the next 10 years or so, right? So which is much more important as well to add to privacy and security.
Yeah. So I think one point is really important here. From a privacy security perspective, there are what we call safety attributes. So Google is working with a standards body called ML Commons. We just announced that we're working with ML Commons to standardize the ethical set of responsible. We're big on responsible AI. That's why we didn't put our models out immediately. A company that is a research company that puts an interface on a transformer can afford to do so. Google can't. We had this in our closet for years, so to speak. But we could not put it out until we were ascertaining that it is responsible, it is trained in a way, it is not exposing people's data. So from that perspective, today we're offering the same kind of thing to companies who are using Google. So in Google Cloud, very specifically. So we provide safety attributes. So when you make a call to the language model, get a response back, we give you 18 factors that you can essentially threshold on. Is this toxic? Is it hateful? Is it political? Is it financial advice? Is it political advice? Is it legal advice, which it shouldn't be? So you can threshold on that, and you can decide whether to put the response back to the user or not. We have a content moderation API that tells you how toxic, harmful, negative the input could be. We have a set of bias mitigation tools that takes a look at your data to weigh it against the inherent biases that are there. And we're working with bodies that are standards bodies like ML Commons to make sure that responsible AI and things that pertain to ethical AI, trustworthy AI, are actually being measured and standardized within the industry. So this is a really, really important topic for us.
Yeah. And last month we spoke at Oracle Open World. It's a conference happens in Las Vegas. And I spoke with one of the founders who is working with White House to redesign the organ donation system in US. Right? What his main basis was, like today, the organs originates in, let's say, in California. The donor is waiting for the organ in Texas. It will never reach to him 50% of the time. So people are not getting what they deserve to be in this world, right? So which is a very key issue. And the way the organ donation system works today, the matching algorithm is a black box, right? It's a black box. Nobody knows, and it should be a black box, but it should be able to take inputs like this to help it not lose the organ on the way, right? And you know, there's a lot to do with that, but we're at least starting with Velios on that journey of ethical, responsible AI for at least the basic human right of living in this world, right?
Jason, I'd love to give you an opportunity to talk about ethics and privacy.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so that's, I mean, it's a major concern, especially when you're dealing with medical data, and it becomes in some sense, sort of a roadblock to some progress. I mean, just getting access to data for researchers to use, and then like each health system, it's hard to interoperate across health systems because you can't often access other data, and a lot of like machine learning algorithms would benefit from lots of data, and it becomes also a risk. There's been issues like, I mean, for UCLA is strict about keeping the data within the UCLA health system, but in other cases where other health systems have given like the data to companies such as Google, and then that has caused issues down the line.
Wait, what?
And we're going to start a fight. I like it. Jason, what advancements in AI do you believe will have the most significant impact on healthcare?
I mean, it's hard to name just one, but I mean, several areas. I mean, so one, I mean, there's a lot of excitement now about, I mean, the promise of personalized medicine and personalized genomics, where you can start making treatments and decisions on a more personal level based on data you have about a specific individual, opposed to just what's learned about populations as a whole. There's a lot of excitement now in seeing if a lot of the advances can improve drug discovery. I know a lot of the people, like when I was, for example, my PhD advisor and other people who I sort of looked up to when I was training have, and were in academia, have taken major roles in pharmaceutical companies or biotech, because there's sort of this recognition that this type of work that we were doing has potential to potentially move drug discovery, and that's, I mean, it's a hard problem, but there's a lot of payoff if it's successful. And then more on the clinical side, there's, I mean, a lot of applications in better using imaging data and large biobank and EHR. There's opportunities there as well.
Thank you.
But I have to comment on something. So Google never accepts private data from any company or our organization. We only use public data to train our models, and if there are any potential licensing that has to be done, it's an official legal license that's happening. So just because we're in a public forum, I want to take issue with that last statement that Google never accepts private data. We don't accept private data for any kind of training. So just to make sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was in public newspapers, the story of what happened. But,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. On that note, does anyone have any questions? Oh my gosh, all right. Thank you. Kathleen.
Kathleen Sterling, Valley News Group. So I want to go back to the very beginning where you said it all starts with data. So can you talk about the question of ownership of data, proprietary information, specifically the ethics of using data and then outputting it on AI?
Yeah. So it's very important that the data that we ingest for these models are completely in the public domain or completely licensed, and there's a traceable history of where that data originated from. So there's essentially there's a line of governance, a provenance that goes back from the models we train to where we obtained it. So that's why we're really, really strict on it. We're like over bending backwards on those types of things. In fact, we're working with standards groups to create these digital watermarks that cannot be erased, that are invisible, that if you're generating, for example, an image using the Google platform, that image is clearly designated as being digitally watermarked, and therefore you can determine the ownership and the IP of that image. So these are the efforts that we're taking, and we're working with standards bodies like ML Commons in order to ascertain what the responsible AI principles and properties are. What should we be looking out for as a standard?
Just to add, right, like there are two topics in this, right, what you asked your question as, like what does this machine learning models or AI should get trained on? Like what kind of data that gets trained on? Should it get trained on that Saurabh lives in Dublin, California, and he goes to Costco every day and buys fruits? Does that kind of data should go to that AI model? It should not, right? What it should get trained on is Saurabhs living in San Francisco, probably there are 40 of them, aggregated information is what should go to that model. Whether that's happening or not, that's very, that's very open question. But one way we were trying to do, and before joining Oracle, I was at VICA for 4 years. What we were trying to do is, can we train this model on de-identified data? Right? Can you completely de-identify this data and remove the PII and PAI out of it, and let's see whether these models can perform. Models were able to perform. They were able to perform much more better in certain ways. They were much more less in certain ways, but we were okay with using that model in production because it helped us through that checkbox that we are now using de-identified data. And de-identified data, just for sake of it, like it will convert Saurabh into A, B, C, or some kind of random numbers. It's a SHA-3-Blake 2 algorithms which is used. But at the end, you will not train the model on your personal data. What you are training the model is de-identified data. The other part of the puzzle, which is happening in real world as we speak, is deepfakes, right? What these models are generating deepfakes. What that does to you is what we just spoke, that if your personal data went in, you would eventually see in next year or two deepfakes coming out for you. So it's kind of both risks are there.
Ollie, you're faced with something different.
because I kind of get what you're saying, but just to be super clear, deep fakes are not produced by these models. That's absolutely incorrect. Deep fakes are produced by a variety of tools that nefarious people utilize in order to construct, the deep fakes. So these models, like for example, the family of models are text-to-text, text-to-image currently, these type of text-to-code, code generation models. These models currently do not generate quote-unquote deep fakes. There are subsequent manipulations that third parties provide who are creating these deep fakes. I'm not saying, obviously these deep fakes are happening, and some of it is funny, some of it is unfortunate, some of it is quite scary and nefarious. So there's that spectrum of humor to really bad actors getting hands on them. So that spectrum, we all need to be judicious in guarding against that, but from a knowledge perspective and a tooling perspective. But what's critically important to understand is fundamentally these models currently, like for example, I know the Google models are not generating any kind of deep fakes. So I just want to make sure that is clear.
Yeah, so I was talking more of an AI perspective, not specific LLM models, but AI models are doing it, right? Like,
Yeah, but
on
AI
top
models
of
don't
it.
generate deep fakes.
Yeah.
People take a variety of inputs. It's like a production system,
Yeah.
and they concoct what ends up being a deep fake, right?
Yeah.
Very good. Andrew, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, is there any legal precedent related to information entered into an AI program being open to discovery during litigation? So for instance, you use AI to write that email and you send it. Are you the author of the email? Is the AI the author of the email?
You are the
And is that...
I love the groan from the room. If we could just keep that energy coming, I love that. Great question, Andrew.
I sort of have
Jordan
an
Rocket.
answer. Yeah, I sort of have an answer actually on that. My law firm actually held a summit last week actually about that exact topic, and I unfortunately wasn't there, but members of my team were. And scarily so far, the answer is no one knows the answer. To put it from a legal standpoint, there's no precedent so far.
And just to add, right, like if you think about what you just asked, email is a simple example. What if you are using the self-driving feature of Tesla and going in a road and hit with an accident? There's no clear judgment out there.
Still the Wild West.
Still the Wild West. And that's why I'm saying, right, like, there's no FDA
we need
governing on
legislation.
this.
Essentially, we need legislation. And
Yeah.
this is something that a number of companies have been advocating for. We seriously need legislation in these areas. We are missing, there's a white space of legislation in all these areas. And we are all very emphatic that we need legislation to happen at multiple levels to help mitigate some of these risks to the public. I think there's a set of questions there.
Yeah, thank you. In the back.
Cedric Sutton, the Adult Skills Center. Other than not using personal information, what other ethical guidelines do you all use in order to generate AI and create the next things that you're going to do?
So I can start. So internally, we have several processes of due diligence that we have to go through. In fact, we have 2 separate processes of due diligence, each 5-6 steps that we have to go through in order to even qualify a data set to be even used for training. Clearly, no PII, differential privacy, all these types of things need to be done. We do check for biases. We have bias checking tools for a variety of factors. And then we have the safety factors, which those 18 critical ones, and of course there are others, but these are the ones that are currently exposed as metadata. They are all forms of toxicity. They're publicly available. You can look them up. The responses from, you can go to Google Cloud's safety factors if you Google that. And it will also come back with things pertaining to advice around legal advice, medical advice, financial advice, political, kind of stuff. So as a user, when you get that response, you can decide, if you threshold on it, whether you would like that to be presented back to the user or not. Input is also moderated as well. There's a content moderation API to ensure that toxic, harmful, biased, hateful kind of things are flagged, and therefore all these tools and components are there. Now, in a chatbot like Bard, all of these are incorporated, but still we have the caveat, hey, this can still maybe generate something bad, beware, but we put in all the safeguards that we know are available in order to mitigate those types of things. So multiple levels.
I just have a quick question. You say we. I'm just curious. Who is we? Like
Sorry,
how many?
In this case, we Google.
Yes, and would you say it's a committee? Is it hundreds of people, thousands of people? I'm just curious.
There are groups that are responsible for defining these processes, and then everyone who is touching this chain of custody needs to observe these processes.
So
it's a company-wide, alphabet-wide.
Alphabet-wide. Yeah. So hundreds of thousands of people.
Whoever is involved in the process of obtaining the data, cleaning the data, checking it, going through the process, training it, commercializing it, everyone who touches it needs to be compliant with these processes.
So just to add, right, like, just to clarify your question, so you asked about AI, but his answers were most of LLM, the large language model like ChatGPT and those. So there's AI, and then there's that, and then there's generative AI, right? So generative AI is an extraction of not the ChatGPT and the models which are available online for people to use. It's more of your enterprise, and as an enterprise, you decide and you take the responsibility in your hand what you train your model on, right? And it's your private data. It's living in your isolated network, isolated compute, everything isolated. And that's what we work at. So Oracle don't produce any AI models as such, like, which are not yours to use or yours to get trained on. What we do is we take your data, put that in your realms of use and your privacy only, and you decide as an enterprise what you want that AI model to get trained on. And there are, I don't know how many AI models are out there, but like you can use of whether you bring your own model, you bring Google model, you bring OpenAI model, any of the model which you bring, you are the responsible governing body. So you create that body. Right?
I think there was a question. Yes?
Yes, I just wanted to gain some clarity. Earlier, Ali said that you were very emphatic that you want legislation around this, and there was a lot of agreement around the room. And I'm wondering if you guys could each speak to where that, where being emphatic translates to action, and how we as a community can tap into that to have our voices heard.
Great question.
Yeah, great question. I think part of it is a shared responsibility between the private and the public sector, and then, of course, government. What we're referring to is we can put all the practices and safeguards internally, but there's no guarantee anybody else will do that outside of a given company. So we can try to be really, really responsible with our AI and treat your data, like, for example, the terms of service for Google using your, when you're using the Google Cloud Platform, anything you generate is considered customer data, meaning you own it. Whether it's data, it's code, it's models, you own it, it's private to you, it's safe within your own secure enclave, you give access to people, that's that. But beyond that, what happens beyond those boundaries is outside of companies, between companies, and in the public sector as well. That is something that we have no real jurisdiction over. It's really legislation that needs to help us, help the private sector and public institutions as well, help them govern what they can or can't do in order for public safety to be of primary concern.
So that nexus you were just referred to about businesses talking to one another, is that happening?
There are various organizations that have formed around the general banner of responsible AI, trustworthy AI, humane AI. And I know most companies who are hyperscalers in this area are participating very actively in these committees to contribute and see how they can add their 2 cents and can work together in order to essentially make the world a safer place, because these are new things that are coming up with their own safety. It's sort of like driving, right? How many years did it take until seatbelts became legislation, right? So it's almost the same type of situation where we need the seatbelts legislated for AI, pretty much.
But there's a catch, right? It's 52,890 companies last week which are working on AI. And with a $100 billion investment, with a business value of $1 trillion. Now, if there's no hyperscalers are participating in those organizations, but those organizations are limited to the people who are working with enterprises, right? We are working with enterprises. You guys trust us to help you with the next generation of cloud technologies, with the next generation of Hadoop big data technologies, with the previous generation of data warehouse technologies. But what necessary is not there is governing those 52,000 companies. And these companies are created by high school dropouts, right, which are riding the AI gold rush, I would say, right? And they are not getting governed in any shape or form. You go open App Store and go in an iPhone or Google phone, open App Store and say deepfake, you'll get 10, 20 apps which can create me as you talking in your voice. So it's kind of like there's no governing body around that. Right? And that's the higher discussion which is going on. And everybody is advocating to it. So I think all of, as Ali mentioned, right, everybody has to work together on this.
Yeah, go for
Can
it,
I ask
Jordan.
a question for the audience?
Yes, Jordan.
Cool, we'll get some participation here. Just by a show of hands, how many people have actually used AI so far for your business in any regard? Everyone, wow, okay, good amount. Out of the ones who didn't raise their hand, is there a reason why you haven't tried it yet? Just curious what your holdback might be. Maybe there's haven't had a need?
We still don't know what it is.
Perfect. Okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Okay.
Great idea. Yeah, great point.
Time to play. Okay, that's another good one. Yeah, no idea. Any other reason? Yes.
What's the best free app?
That's a really good question, actually. A really good question. I can answer that one in a few minutes, but any other reasons why? I just want to. Okay, and the other ones that said yes. Why have you used AI? What has it helped you with?
Saving time, automation.
Okay, perfect. And for what in particular? Like emails or?
Research,
Mhm.
emails,
Yes.
organizing
Mhm.
certain things.
Oh, fantastic.
I used it today morning to write my introduction.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's great for that.
What else do you guys use it for? Anyone who said yes? Or?
For me, creative ideas.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Is there stuff in here that you want to use it for that you haven't yet that could help you with time clocks or, like I said, email generation or anything like that that you want to help automate stuff? Marketing, there you go. Actually, very good for marketing. So all these tools that are out there from ChatGPT, Bard, both have free tiers you can pay. I believe Google has a paid version as well. Don't hold me to that one. I know I can get Ali to answer that properly for me. But I know ChatGPT does have a plus version. But you can use those models to help do basic stuff for you. There's also a bunch of tools out there that can help your business, from everything from image generation or creatives or marketing or presentations. Anything like that you may need, that maybe you sit down, before you go to bed at night and you're like, darn it, that work took me 3 hours to do. But it's something I could have an AI generated for me, and I would just have to proofread it, for example. That's a type of task that you could start with today that won't really affect your business in any way, but it'll save you time. And that's the best way to get started with AI, in my opinion, is just do something easy like that that's going to help you get started, welcome up to it, and kind of see, how you like it, and then slowly bridge out into bigger models like we're talking about, or evolving into your business or other employees with that.
Yeah,
And trust me-
absolutely. And to kind of add to that, sorry, did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, trust me, this is not cheap. And you asked about free. This is not free at all. This is lot cost. It's a costly affair to do all of this training.
Yeah.
And we can talk about cost, but it's a very costly thing to do. This AI model. It's not cheap, and Oracle has some tiers which we can talk about. But yeah, Ali.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that I know for a fact that in Google Workspace, so if you do Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, Gmail, things like that, we have this experimental feature called Help Me Write that you can sign up for the experimental feature, and you can go in there and it says, help me write, and you type it in and it expands it, it contracts it, elaborate this section, contract this section, change the tone of the section, generate a diagram. So a lot of these things are currently there in trial mode. You can currently get them for free. And so try them out, absolutely. And there are, there are other companies that we're involved with who are in the marketing side. Someone said marketing. There are a number of these companies, smaller companies, but they're doing really great stuff. They're using the technologies in order to create product brochures, HTML pages that include product descriptions, images, combining things together. So a lot of marketing activation stuff out there. If you Google those companies, you'll find some initial tiers of free tiers, initial free tiers, and then some very minimal subscription. I don't want to advocate any particular company, but they're out there and they're really strong.
I have a question. It feels like we all talk about legislation and importance of legislation. It feels like though that there's a barrier to entry in terms of education for the mass public around AI. So it feels like to jump to legislation before we, at least establish education for the public, it feels like that's a big leap. So how do we encourage education? How do we partner with educational institutions, younger to older? How do we do that?
My 2 cents as a teacher is I encourage my students to use these technologies very, very avidly. I actually show them how to use these technologies. But I tell them, listen, don't rely on them. It's great to generate stuff, but you have to double check them. They may be completely hallucinating. They may be generating complete nonsense. Make sure you go back, verify the content, but leverage it for your work. whether it's code generation for your exercises. Some teachers, professors are adverse to that. I would say encourage it, embrace it, and help guide them. To your point, the educational aspect.
Yeah.
I think that's a very first step.
Yeah, it feels like that. Jason, I'm wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is something that, I mean, it's become a major topic at universities that, I mean, lots of students are going to use ChatGPT and other similar tools to work on their assignments. And, I mean, it's hard to, in a sense, I mean, tell what's always done by AI or not. And, I mean, so there's some perspectives that, I mean, similar to like the calculator and other technological advances, that you need to sort of start teaching from the perspective that these technologies are there, and then how can we use that to do the next type of advances and leverage it as a tool. But it's going to require a lot of sort of rethinking of some types of assessment and instruction, and it's still being figured out.
Yeah, so I'll give you my example, right? So I studied in a college in India, and at that time it was Bachelor's of Computer Science Engineering. That was my degree, right? When I go back last year, I went back. There are 10 degrees of computer science which is getting taught in that same college. Each one has data science attached to it, artificial intelligence attached to it, machine learning. So it's happening. It's happening out there to the kids. The question really is how much of the Gen Zs or the millennials or baby boomers are going and reading about that and going and recertifying and getting that learning process going. I think that's more of, it's a collective opportunity for us to learn about it and more so learn how to use it effectively. And somebody said, what is AI? I don't know. That's the truth of the ground right now. You need to make an effort to go and learn about it. My 9-year-old daughter was, when I came back from the conference from WSJ last week, she was asking, Dad, you work on AI. Are you going to replace my author? And I want to be an author. Is the AI going to replace it? And that went into 6 weeks, 2-3 weeks of discussion between me and her. And I finally ended up subscribing to a physical paper for WSJ. And she started going through the articles about AI in it by herself every day. So they are learning more than me. And I think the frontier, who is leading the world, I would say, should learn much more than what the backward generation is doing.
And just to add on to that with education, I think the first thing is just give it a try. Try with something easy. Just go on and try something easy. To ask it to generate you a prompt about your dog. Give it a shot. See how you like it. First way to try it.
On that note, can I ask a question? I'd love to know from every panel member what AI tools they use in their day-to-day life.
That's a great question. Ali, what do you use every day?
I use Bard, but I also in the Google Cloud space, we have Vertex AI, which is our enterprise secure area. I actually use that more than Bard because I can't put company secrets inside of Bard or ChatGPT or whatever. But I can put it in Vertex AI. I have long, context lengths. I can generate stuff out of it. So I use that. And of course, Google Workspace. What I'm mentioning is the Google Workspace area. I use that every day. Yes.
Very good. Jason?
Yeah, so I use ChatGPT, not necessarily every day, but for various tasks. And then, for my research, oftentimes we're using more specialized AI tools that aren't facing the general public.
Thank you.
I think I did mention that I use ChatGPT, but I'm in field most of the time. So when I'm talking to customers or talking to future customers or current customers, and they're asking me a question about AI, I kind of ask them the opposite. What is the kind of manual work you do, and what is the best or the best manual work you want to eliminate from your day-to-day. And when they answer me a question, then we go and work on, I use those AI models which actually help them deliver things to production and take that final leap of faith that this is going to work for them. And that's what my day-to-day is around.
And I personally use ChatGPT as well. I use it pretty much every day. I actually use it to draft a lot of my emails. And let me tell you, I sound like a champ when make customers get my emails, so very good with that, not gonna lie. But, and I also do use, there's a few mobile apps that are out there. If you guys need really good headshots for anything, if you actually go to my LinkedIn profile, it has a picture that I generated with AI that looks like a really good actor's headshot, so those are really helpful too if you need pictures or anything. But yeah, I use ChatGPT on every day for programming and for stuff like that.
Yeah, I forgot that I use Tesla's AI every day to drive me to work, right?
That too, yeah. There's a lot of other AI too, yeah.
Canva has a really great
Canva's
AI.
really good.
I don't know if anybody uses Canva, but Canva has fantastic AI. Yes, Paul.
So, if you've addressed it, I missed it. But do you see an emergence of expert systems actually being implemented with artificial intelligence and input? So, what business categories are they?
So when I started in school, expert systems, we used to build them in Prolog. I don't know if people know Prolog. It's a special purpose programming language. And, but nowadays, any conversational system that we can build using these combination of technologies I mentioned, it's not just the model, it's the combination of these things. And if you want to go read about what those combinations are, you can Google my name and the Gen AI patterns. And there's a blog that is a recent blog. It shows all that soup to nuts. But any conversational agent is now effectively an expert system, especially if you've tuned the model in the back end for that specific industry domain or sector. So that's the epiphany of what your question kind of like, wow, you're right. These are really expert systems, finally. It doesn't have to be Eliza from the past, if you know.
The expert systems, if you think about the expert system, they have been there, right? Like the autopilot in planes, which we travel every day. It has been there. They are just getting much more efficient by addition of these new algorithms which are coming in. GPT-4 is out. If you have used it, it does create a lot of good art. There is a new art, I think it's like close to this room, that big of an art displayed in San Francisco Museum of Art, which is made from completely ground up from AI, right? So that's an expert system, I would call it, right? So there are big expert systems already existing, which are getting better, and there are new expert systems which are getting created out from scratch, eliminating that redundant human work, right? Like most of that.
In the back.
With these expert systems becoming as robust as they are already, I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts in where's AI going to be in 5 years, 10 years, and what businesses are actually in the line of fire with AI becoming as robust as they're going to be?
I love that question. Jordan?
Sure, I'll take this one. We currently work with a bunch of food and beverage companies, and everyone's probably heard the news out here in Los Angeles or in California that they're raising the minimum wage at quick service restaurants. That's actually going to be fueling a big AI spark in the food and beverage industry by replacing, unfortunately, a lot of humans with kiosks and other type of AI service modules as they're a little bit longer longevity with that. Unfortunately, that's what's going to be happening in that space. And I think other industries will start going down that route when they realize some stuff can be more managed through AI. Hopefully, we don't want to replace humans, at least my job. I don't want to replace humans at all. I think humans are the most important part, and AI is here to benefit and improve that aspect of it. But unfortunately, the bottom line sometimes comes in between that.
I just have a question in the middle of that, though. So if AI is going to take away some jobs, where can AI then provide jobs?
That's a really good question. Yeah. No, AI. No, that's a good question. I was gonna flaunt it for a minute. Yes. No. So yeah, here you go. Sorry, I was thinking on the other one for a minute.
So let me answer that.
Oh, go ahead.
So
go ahead.
The most interesting evolution of a new job has been the prompt engineer. I don't know if you guys. So the coolest, newest computer programming language is what? English. The coolest, newest programming language is now English. If you're an English major and can form very nice sentences, you are in the market to become a really good prompt engineer, not just right off the bat. You got to take some courses. There are free courses all of these companies provide, including ours. But then prompt engineering is something everybody can learn and should learn, in my humble opinion. We all should. It's like learning to use a word processor. I used to use a typewriter when I was a kid, and when word processors came out, it's like, wow, I can edit stuff. I don't have to take out that thing and scratch it out. And so now it's sort of like using these technologies. It's use prompt engineering. Everybody can use prompt engineering. And the new job, I think, is the prompt engineer. But everybody else just gets upskilled. We're just going to get better at our jobs. It's like everybody now has an assistant to get better at our jobs. So I think that's the positive side.
I would say, right, like when electricity came in, all the engines didn't get replaced. All the diesel engines still work, right? So, you know, if you think that analogy and apply that to AI, it's a different scale. When electricity came in, it was a different scale. This has a different scale and a backing of $1 trillion economy and this economic situation. So yes, it will disrupt job market. It will eliminate jobs which are redundant. Leaders have to start thinking how to make that happen in a gradual way. And as I said, new jobs will evolve around prompt engineering, but that would not be as you get paid today to do certain stuff, right? It'll not be at the same pay scale, right? So, you know, those are the things which you need to remember.
And I have an answer now.
Okay, go for it. Go for it, Jordan.
So thank you. Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking about doing, actually. No, but when AI starts replacing people, it'll replace them for a lot of the redundant jobs, right? Kind of like they were mentioning with it. But AI will also scale your business. So as your business grows, you're going to have to hire more people to fill those other jobs in the scaling with your business. So like with my business, we've been able to scale because of AI, and we're able to bring on more humans to help us with the roles that AI can't cover. So it'll help you grow your business and help hire people back that maybe you let go previously, which, you know, might be a case.
Well, that was a roller coaster. I have,
yes.
I'm going to go right there in the back again.
So you mentioned the prompt engineer is going to be a job that's created. What happens when the learning of English or whatever language you're putting in is done, and now the prompt engineer is no longer a job that's available? What happens when the machine is done learning from humans?
We need to talk to Terminator.
No,
right?
I think, yeah, I think it's an ongoing process because it's sort of like think of these systems as you're explaining things to a little kid. You're explaining your world to that kid. The kid may grow up, but there's always going to be other little kids. And that person, as they grow up, are going to want to know other things. So I think it's going to be a constant interaction. It's going to be a continued, evolving interaction with our assistants as we grow them, so to speak.
We've got time for one more question.
Okay, thank you. I was just thinking to the people side, right? We're talking about a paradigm shift and how our society takes in, thinks about, uses language and information technology. And I'm wondering about the psychological piece of that and how, if there are any studies that have been done on early adopters and how their lives and worldviews and ways their brains work have changed. Are y'all touching any part of that?
There are a number of colleagues. I was actually speaking with one of them yesterday at UCSD who are doing studies on the relationship between cognitive science, generative AI, and in the classroom. So how does generative AI help? And the focus of the discussion, we're just brainstorming, right? And so this is not a Google official. This is my academic hat on, right? So we were talking about how it can augment individuality and individual instruction. So it's almost like students will get kind of a partial tutor to themselves. And where can we have positive interventions for people, especially underserved minorities, who can be helped in a low-cost way? If they're having problems with their homework, if they need extra tutoring, they don't have money to hire another tutor, maybe that's an area. That's an area that some of my colleagues are exploring in this sense. And I think it's a very valid area. So individualized instruction, serving underrepresented minorities, and just augmenting the learning experience with generative capabilities.
Yeah.
I love that.
Khan Academy is working really hard on that. Khan Academy is really working hard on what he just judged, right? Like how can that all get implemented in production?
So unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, although I'm sure we all have a bunch of questions. What I would like to say is there are two SAG-AFTRA representatives. If the two of you could stand up just 1 second. You have flyers that you've brought today, and I would love, they are really informative flyers. Would love for you to stop by and pick up one of those. from them. Jordan, thank you for stepping in for Duncan on that. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
We'd also like to thank again Google for being our sponsor. Thank you so much. And let's give a round of applause for our panelists. If you're anything like me, you want to know when lunch is. And the luncheon program begins at 12:45. So in the meantime, I encourage you all to visit all of the exhibitors. Go fill your cart up with the stickers so that you can fight me for the round-trip tickets on Southwest, a signed football from the Rams, jewelry from Kendra Scott, and a staycation from the amazing Garland. And so thank you so much. Take care.